going, guys? Cracked Rack here. I thought before today's video started, I'd become a Chippendale stripper. Alright, bitch. You ready for the fucking video? My family's very proud of me. This is what I... Okay, for real, guys. How's it going? Cracked Rack here. I haven't uploaded in a long time. I've had a lot of bullshit happen in my life, so... I'm just chillaxing, ready to make some content. Now, today I have a video that I think you guys will all love. I think this may even be a classic Cracked Rack video. You see, I am a bit of a druggie. I love drugs. I love pot. I love alcohol. I love kratom. I love cigarettes. I just love the stuff. I can't stand people who are like, ew, drugs, ew. However, at the same time, I can also admit when I've made a mistake or gone too far. You see, and by the way, the sound of testicles slapping against the wall, that's my cats chewing on their food, but in the background. Anyways, basically, to sum things up, I pretty much did shrooms. I say pretty much because people are like, oh, that wasn't shrooms, that was a THC chocolate bar, or that was just a little bit of shrooms. No, motherfucker, it was a chocolate bar that made me hallucinate worse than I've ever hallucinated in my life. I've done THC, I've done THC crystals, I've done concentrated THC in the highest percentages you can get it. I have never, ever experienced full-body hallucinations that made me feel like impending death was really coming. So basically, I was at a weed store the other day, and in my state, shrooms are heavily illegal. So I go to this store, and I was like, hey man, you guys got anything other than like kratom and pie? I'm just curious what you might be playing around with. And the dude was like, oh bro, you have no idea what I've got here. And he pulled out, and he looked like a pedestrian from Grand Theft Auto 5, by the way. He pulled out these chocolate bars, and they said Trey on them. And they were like these quote-unquote microdose bars. And I was like, how did you guys get shrooms? Shrooms are so incredibly illegal. And he was like, well, it's not really shrooms. It's just pretty much might as well be shrooms. It's a replica and like a knockoff of shrooms. And it has all the same psychedelic properties, but it's like a substrate. And I was like, oh my God, sign me up. So I paid the poorly groomed man, and his group of people come around me and are like, oh, you just got mushrooms, cool bro. They're like 55 years old. They're like, cool bro. Now, I assure you, this is not some fictionalized story like Leafy is here does, where he's like, you guys, guess what I just did? I just literally took like 50 shrooms and I'm fucked up. So anyway, as I'm driving home, I take some of them. Not because it was going to kick in while I was driving, obviously. I was more like, okay, okay. I have some shrooms, let's take them. Maybe they'll kick in by the time I get home. So I take them, and less than 20 minutes later, as I'm almost home, cars have like this angelic glow around them. Like, it's very subtle, but they have like this almost glow around them, and it was angelic. And it felt like the cars around me were like effortlessly driving without like any tension or weight or torque. It was very weird. That's when I knew I needed to get home immediately. So I got home, and for like 2 or 3 hours at home, I was just playing video games, and I felt perfectly fine. I didn't feel any high, really. I just felt really calm, and I felt pretty good. So after about 3 hours of this, I was like, oh my God, this is a scam. I didn't really get shrooms. So I was like, fuck it. Let's make the money worth it. Let's take all of the bars. So I was like, all right, gonna take all the bars now. I took all 15 and ended up throwing up most of them. So it was a big fucking waste of money. So I was visiting my mom, by the way. I chose to trip on shrooms with my mom nearby. So I'm in the living room. I am playing Grand Theft Auto 3, and everything feels pretty okay until I start trying to talk. I started just trying to talk, but it was like I couldn't finish a sentence or a word. So I kept going, and playing my game. However, some real problems started to kick in, and this is why I don't agree that this was some kind of fake shrooms bar. I think I definitely took, at the very least, a strong psychedelic. Basically, as I was playing my video game, I saw a pink line just like wipe across my face. It went shung, and it made like a little harmonic noise, like dun. And I was like, what the fuck was that? So then I get up and go to the bathroom, and I start feeling the ground come out from beneath my feet. I feel absolutely awful. I look in the mirror trying to desperately sober up, and I literally just I looked beautiful. Like my face was transforming into it's hard to explain. It's like I was 2 frames of a photo, and my eyes kept switching between both frames. And I kept seeing myself at these 2 perspectives rapidly, and I looked absolutely incredible. And I just remember seeing how much I was like, I deserve respect and love. Like, that's what I was thinking when I was looking at myself. And I just looked really cool in my eyes. However, the worst of the trip was yet to come. Then it started getting way too intense. I grabbed my phone to check it, and my hands were gigantic. Like, literally huge. It looks like I was wearing boxing gloves. And my phone was just so tiny. It was like the size of a pea. I couldn't fucking read anything on the screen. Then the absolute worst part happened. I think this could deter people from doing any type of drugs. All of a sudden, I felt a centipede crawl out of my ear, like a really, really big centipede, crawl out of my ear and go into the other. And I felt it. It was like the whole time. At this point, I knew that I messed up really bad by taking so many squares. And I went to the package, and it was like, take 3 squares, you'll feel really high. Take 6 squares, you'll be on the moon. Take 9 squares, you might be dead. All of a sudden, I felt so fucked up and so sick, I ran into my mom's room. She was about ready to go to bed, and I was like, hey, Mom, I know you don't want to deal with this, but I just took a bunch of shrooms. And as I looked at her, she looked like a frog lady. Both sides of her mouth just went down, on her face. She wasn't actually frowning. She couldn't even frown that hard if she tried, because it's not possible. She frowned like a frog would in their default state, and both of her cheeks just sagged down completely, and she just looked so devastated. But everything I was trying to say to her was word salad. In my head, I was like, Mom, I accidentally tripped on a bunch of shrooms and did a bunch of drugs, I'm sorry. But instead, I was like, so my mom's like, oh, Jesus Christ. So she opens her tablet, starts looking at ways to get rid of a mushroom trip, and she's like, well, you can vomit it out. I was like, oh, yes, that's true. So I go to the toilet. I felt all of a sudden, I went from feeling like I was overdosing on shrooms to I completely forgot about that plot. I felt like I was in a Saw film. I actually felt the vibe, the nasty bathroom walls from the Saw film, and I felt like I was in a trap where I had to immediately put my fingers down my throat and vomit the bar out or I would overdose and die. So because I was being so dramatic and in such a delirious state of mind, I shoved my 2 fingers down my throat and triggered my gag reflex so hard that in one fell swoop, I vomited up the entire chocolate bar. I was really proud of myself. I was like, yeah, like it was a sports game. But my fucking esophagus was so, inflamed. I felt so sick and disgusting. So I go back into my mom's room, and I'm like, Mom, I think that I'm dead. And she's like, what? And as I saw her, her bed was literally shooting up into the fucking sky, coming back down, and she was transforming into a frog lady and then back to herself again. And I was like, Mom, oh, God. And she was like, sweetie, calm down, watch TV. And I was like, okay. And on the TV was a commercial for some mattress or something. I think it's called Tempur-Pedic or some shit like that. And she was this pretty, she wasn't that attractive, very normal, plain looking woman. And she was talking, and all of a sudden my trip took her and was like everything she said, instead of being buy a Tempur-Pedic today, she was like, and she started getting fatter and fatter and fatter, and she started getting really, really fat, like she was going to explode. And I just felt nauseous. I was going to throw up from just that visual and how strong the hallucinations were. And my mom couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of this situation. So I turned around to her and I was like, Mom, that didn't work at all. And she started laughing because I was being ridiculous. And then I started telling her, I started being like, Mom, I'm dead. I'm dead. I already died. And then when she ignored that because it was ridiculous, I started getting even worse and worse. I started being like, cracked rack. 2020 or 2001 to 2025 because of these shrooms. So then my mom was like, Matthew, you're gonna be okay. You took some shrooms. And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. So I started to calm down a bit, and then I saw her face, and her fucking jaw melted off. It was like, and I was like, no! So, after about 20 more minutes of this absolute hell, somehow, some way, the shrooms stopped working. I came back to, stopped having any hallucinations. I was so relieved. I don't think I've ever been more relieved in my entire life at how bad that experience was. Now, keep in mind, I was still high as hell. I just wasn't seeing any more hallucinations. I was high for another 5 hours after this. And for the rest of the night, I couldn't even really have fun because my esophagus felt like I got stabbed because of how hard I vomited. And yeah, I tried to just play some video games and relax, but the TV was just such a bore. Like, I just hated the TV. I didn't want to watch the TV. So I remember sitting there, and it felt like my heart was dipped in, like, I don't even know, like aluminum paint. It was a very weird feeling, and I felt absolutely awful. And my trauma, because I have some trauma in my life, from my past, I felt it. It, like, got up and walked away. Like, that's hard to explain, but, like, that part of my brain got up and walked away. So there you go, guys. That's my experience with shrooms. Not at all something I enjoy. I called the store, and they said this is not what's supposed to happen at all, and you're not supposed to get these extreme of effects. So, bad experience, bad drugs, don't do it.